killer who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight.
Keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
Oh, there we go. What's up, everybody? Let me fix my mic here for a minute. Boy, when I don't go live for a while, I become an amateur again. All right, can you guys hear me okay? What's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover murder, mystery to the paranormal. And today we're going to be covering the Murdaugh trial. Before we get started, though, we like to always give back as much as we can, so we like to feature the missing. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so today we've got Madalena Kojokari. She's been missing a while. She went missing on November 21st of last year. She was just 11 years old, missing out of Cornelius, North Carolina. She has brown hair, brown eyes, last seen wearing jeans, white t-shirt, pink, purple, white Adidas. This is a tragic case because they did arrest one of the parents and then the guardian, I think a parent and step-parent. And so, fortunately, I hate to say this, but positive vibes, but it doesn't look good when they arrest the parents for lying to investigators, but we still want to keep a lookout for her. Prayers to the family, and if you have any tips, please call 704-892-7773. Missing out of Cornelius, North Carolina. And one more, and this just popped up here. So this is Jonathan Lewis, age 20, known to hang out at campsites and rest areas, could be driving a white Toyota Prius, likely at a campsite or rest area. This is in Ocala National Park, which is, I guess, towards Gainesville, Florida. Says he's kind of doing the van life thing and supposedly went missing. So if you have any information or tips, please call 352-955-1818. And that is Jonathan Lewis, just age 20. All right, so what's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Apparently, there's some football games on there. My apologies. I have to kind of make up because was so busy during the week. I've got to make up on some of my live shows here. And I wasn't sure what to cover. Last show, we did a mixture of Brian Koberger and the Alex Murdaugh case. So I figured since we kind of talked about the Murdaugh case, I thought we would kind of recap everything. And today, I basically, just in case if you missed any of this trial or you don't know about the case, don't matter. We're going to kind of go over the opening statements. And basically what I did is I've got the opening statements plan, which is from the prosecutor's end. and I put up some visuals of like where the house is at. And so basically I kind of put up visuals of what the prosecutor's kind of talking about, and then we'll kind of like pause and break down some of the stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy. And I think most of you guys, if you haven't heard about the case, like I said, don't worry. I also do have a live show that I did yesterday. If after the show you want to check it out, I basically do kind of a 40-minute crash course on the whole Murdaugh family tragedy, because it started back way in 2015, and it's just it's a crazy story. So let's get started. Let me quickly just shout some people out. What's up, Jennifer? What's up, Molly? Lady M, thank you so much for all your guys' help. Real quick for the mods, since Jennifer was got injured and hasn't been with us for a little while, we were going to do a mod appreciation on that weekend, but she decided to hurt herself, so we'll have to set up a new date, and hopefully maybe in a week or two we'll try it again and do a mod appreciation like on a Saturday or Sunday, see what works best for everybody. So with that said, let's get started.
State.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Okay, so like I said, I've got the opening statements of the prosecution. It's not the entire opening statement. It's most of it. I just tried to narrow it down to the straight facts. Well, I wouldn't say facts, but the arguments that were... get this set up real quick so I'm not blocking it real quick. And so while he's talking, I've kind of got the visuals of the house and the property, and to kind of better tell the story of what the prosecution is kind of explaining. So go Chiefs. Yeah, I'm going for Eagles. Yeah, my apologies about going live at this time. All right, let's get started.
Court. On the evening.
So real quick, just before I start playing, what we're looking at is the property of the Murdaugh, and just in case anybody's confused on this, because there was one building I wasn't sure was the kennels. So this is the house right here that I'm circling, and as we pan to the left, we've got the driveway here, and then what apparently was airport runway, I'm assuming, is this strip here. It goes this way here. And as we pan left, it's the one with the red on top. This is the kennel area. This is where Paul Murdaugh's body would be found, basically inside of that. And then Maggie's body was found just outside of it, kind of in this area where my mouse is pointing, for those that may not know. So go ahead and play this, and then we'll play a little bit, break it down, and go from there.
On the evening of June 7th, 2021, at the defendant's property.
I think that'd be a good
on
idea.
Roselle Road in Colleton County. His son, Paul Murdaugh, is standing in a small feed room and some kennels they had on the property.
So yeah, so just one more time. This is the kennels right here, the one with the red roof. Because at first I thought it was this building here when I first was looking into this case. But it's actually this building here.
About 8:50 p.m., and the defendant over there, Alec Murdaugh, took a 12-shade shotgun and shot him in the shoulder, in the chest and the shoulder, with buckshot. And the evidence is going to show it was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. He could have survived that, but after that, another shot went up under his head and did catastrophic damage to his brain and his head.
And we do have a couple of shots of the crime scene. Of course, no graphic photos or anything, but a few pictures of inside the kennel. Looks like some tight areas, and we'll look at that after as well.
The evidence is going to show that Paul collapsed right outside that feed room.
Yeah.
And just moments later, he picked up a .300 Blackout, which is a type of ammunition, but an AR-style rifle. And the evidence is going to show that the family had multiple weapons throughout the property. Picked up that .300 Blackout rifle and opened fire on his wife, Maggie, just feet away near some sheds that used to be a hangar. Pow, pow. 2 shots, abdomen in the leg, and took her down. And after that, there were...
So this is why I was confused, is saw this when this first kind of came out. And as you can see where they've got it marked, it says Maggie and Paul's bodies found here, and there's no white building. So that's why I was so confused. I'm like, oh, so it's got to be this building over here, but it's actually this one. And they'll talk about it because they say it's the one that has the driveway around it. So this is the kennels. I don't know why it has them over here. So I just want to explain that.
And took her down. And after that, there were additional shots, including 2 shots to the head that, again, did catastrophic damage and killed her instantly. The evidence is going to show that neither Paul nor Maggie had any defensive wounds. Neither one of them had any defensive wounds, as if they didn't see a threat coming from their attacker. And the evidence is also going to show that both Maggie and Paul were shot at extremely close range. The evidence is going to show it's called stippling. It's almost like a tattoo, that when you get shot very close to a weapon, it leaves marks that the forensic pathologist can see. They were shot at close range and they did not have defensive wounds. And the evidence is going to show that the defendant, Paul Murdaugh over there, told anyone who would listen that he was never at those kennels. But the evidence is also going to show from these things that every one of us, most of us carry around in our pocket, that he was there. And he was there just minutes before, with Maggie and Paul, just minutes before their cell phones go silent forever and ever. Despite what he told people, I was never at the kennels, the cell phones are going to show otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Creighton Waters. I'm with the attorney. Does something seem a little off? Does something seem a little off?
So yeah, so like I said, I skipped the non-relevant parts, just so it's about 13-minute video, and so like I said, I put the visuals over it for those that are just tuning in. We're listening to the opening statements again, but I put the visuals up to kind of show what they're kind of talking about. I didn't get everything in there as much as I wanted to because it was taking so long. Here is what we kind of played Friday. Where it's Paul Murdaugh, where he is, after the investigators showed up, they put him in a squad car to get his statement. And so we kind of listened to that, and we'll listen to a part of it as well. But here he is, and the argument would be if he supposedly checks the pulse of his son and Maggie, but yet he has no blood on him. And we'll get a little bit more into that here and break it down.
You're going to see video statements of Paul Murdaugh. You're going to see body-worn camera of him at the scene when law enforcement arrives. And hear what he says. And hear what he says about that night. You're going to hear 3 recorded statements on video that he gave with law enforcement. And you're going to hear how things progress about what he says and what he says he did that night.
Yeah.
Watch those closely. Watch his expressions. Listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's not saying. Use that common sense. Does this seem right? Or does something seem a little off? Something seems a little off about this.
Could it be that he is kind of really crying, but maybe it's just for like the son or for his wife, one or the other, and so it's kind of a mixture of kind of crocodile tears. But that's one thing that they said is he seemed upset, but I think 1 or at least 2 other investigators testified that they saw no tears, but he was visibly upset.
I mentioned that Maggie was killed with a .300 blackout rifle, an AR style rifle that chambered in 300 blackout ammunition. And you're going to hear evidence that back in Christmas of 2016, Alec Murdaugh over there bought 2 300 blackout AR style rifles. And that not long after that, one of them went missing from Paul's truck. And time went by, and in April of 2018, Alec Murdaugh replaced that rifle and bought another one. 3 total blackout rifles that they had. One of them went missing years ago, and a replacement was bought. You're going to hear evidence that Paul and his friend were using that replacement gun. They were standing right outside the side door to the gun room of the house, and they were sighting it in, firing down into a field. And the cases were ejecting. The cases are the empty shell from a bullet, and they were ejecting out into the flower bed right there. And then there's a range across the street, and they shot it there, and there's cases ejected there as well. And they were shooting that third replacement gun just weeks prior to the murders, prior to June 7th, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were murdered. And you're going to hear forensic evidence that the cases that were found in that flower bed and the cases that were found across the street at that range were ejected out of the same weapon that fired all the cases that were around Maggie's dead body, that killed her. It was a family weapon that killed Maggie Murdaugh. And you're going to hear evidence that of those 3 blackouts that Alec Murdaugh purchased, when law enforcement arrives at the scene on June 7th, 2021, he can only account for one of them. He can only account for one of them. And that replacement gun is nowhere to be found.
It's true.
You're also going to hear evidence that the type of ammunition, the exact brand, the exact model of ammunition that was used to kill Maggie, S&B, 300 blackout ammunition, and 147 grain bullets, that exact ammunition, boxes, empty boxes of that ammunition, is found all over the property. The very same brand and model of ammunition that was used to kill her is found at multiple locations throughout the property. And you're also going to...
I guess the question would be is I wonder how popular that gun is, the blackout gun. The fact that they own 3 of them, and then one went missing and one was replaced, but still, the fact that they have the ammunition all around their house that was the same ammunition that was basically used for in the guns, doesn't look good for the defense.
Your evidence. The same thing about the shotgun shells that killed Paul. That federal double-aught buckshot unfired rounds were found on the property, as well as Winchester #2 turkey loads. The 2 rounds in the shotgun that killed Paul. Family weapon, same ammunition. It's on the property.
Now, I don't know if this is the right shotgun. I was just kind of pulling up a shotgun just to have with the bullets and just kind of add to the scenery. So this may not be the exact shotgun. I just kind of pulled up an example.
You're also going to hear evidence that about a week after the murders, Mr. Alec Murdaugh's father had died, Mr. Randolph. And about a week after the murders, he shows up early in the morning at his parents' home, where his mother still is in late-stage Alzheimer's, on Alameda in Hampton. It's uncharacteristic for him to show up early, uncharacteristic for him to show up at all like that. And he comes in, and he's carrying something in a blue tarp, and he takes it upstairs. And eventually law enforcement finds out about that. And they go upstairs, and they find a wadded up, very, very large raincoat in a blue color. Could look like a tarp. And you're going to hear evidence.
So it's either a raincoat or a tarp, which I could understand it getting mixed up if it was, one of those big blue rain ponchos. But either way, apparently It sounds like he may have had the guns and maybe some other evidence, but wrapped up in that tarp or poncho raincoat. And so apparently there is gunshot residue all over the inside of that. So I would assume at the very least, guns were probably wrapped up in that.
That it was coated with gunshot residue on the inside. On the inside.
I think there.
You're going to hear other evidence of gunshot residue. You're going to hear that there was gunshot residue.
Yeah, so Chris Davis, for the diagram, they split it out. I'm going to break that down. I'll pull up the diagram. Will get pulled up again. I'll pause it when it does, Chris Davis. And yeah, it looks confusing, like Paul's body's outside. I'll explain what's going on with that diagram because that's a great question.
Doing out at the scene. You're going to hear the evidence that there was gunshot residue on the seatbelt of the car he was driving. You're going to hear evidence that when law enforcement got...
So this is the whole thing with the gunshot residue. So it looks like, obviously, you shoot a gun, you get gunshot residue, most likely on your hands area. And then it looks like he, because they have the seatbelt, which they entered in on Friday, and they didn't really talk too much about it because it was kind of at the end of the day. But it seems like the seatbelt, the significance of that is that when putting on his seatbelt, he would have had gunshot residue on his hands, which would have then transferred to the seatbelt. And so that explains why they've got the seatbelt in evidence right now. There's Tom. Hey, hello everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Football and BBQ for the win. Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much, buddy. Good to see you.
To the scene, he had gone and gotten a shotgun, Paul's shotgun, and that Maggie's DNA was on that shotgun. You're going to hear other evidence from DNA, gunshot residue, firearms examiners. There's going to be a lot of forensic evidence in this case. And I'm not going to get into every single bit of it right now, but I will say that a key piece of forensic evidence that you're going to hear in this case is the cell phone network. Alex's cell phone, Maggie's cell phone, Paul's cell phone. You know, this is all amazing technology that most of us carry around in our pockets. It really allows us to do a lot of things and to get a lot done. But this cell phone keeps track of who we're talking to, who we're calling, who we're texting, whenever we access apps. And every time you do that, there's a record kept in this phone unless it's deleted somehow. And if you're using certain apps, you can even get GPS information where you were when you did that that's stored on these phones. You're going to hear evidence about that. You're going to hear evidence that when you make a call and it pings off of cell towers, that location information can be gathered from that as well. And so it allows an investigation to take this and piece together what someone was doing on a particular day, and not only what they were doing, but who they were interacting with and how they were interacting with them. And this is going to be crucial evidence for you to consider.
And see, as you can see, this building here, it's pretty much open except for this little section right here at the back. This is all just kind of like a covered parking, I guess, for their farm equipment here.
You're going to hear that particularly Alec and Paul, but also Maggie, were prolific cell phone users, to the point where Paul's friends even had a nickname for him about his cell phone usage. Before I talk more about that, there's 3 family properties.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay. The first one I've mentioned is Moselle. Moselle in Colleton County.
Carolina.
It's called Moselle. It's off of Moselle Road, but everybody refers to it as Moselle. And that property is it's a lot of acres. There's a main house on it, and there's a driveway that goes to that main house. But it used to be an airstrip, and there's an airstrip that goes down, and then down the way, just less than a third of a mile away, just a 3-minute walk, 4-minute walk, 45-second drive, is the kennels and the shed that used to be a hangar where Paul and Maggie were murdered. So the main house is just less than a third of a mile away. You can see the kennels from...
Yeah, so here's the diagram. I'm going to move it real quick here. And I actually have the full diagram. That's crazy, Carma, Carolina. Just 30 minutes away from the residence. That's pretty wild. So, actually here, let me do this real quick. just for those that are wondering what's going on. Because when I first saw that too, I'm like, what is going on with this diagram? So what they got is this is actually a smaller example of what this building is. So as you can see the little dot lines showing. So he's actually found in here. They're just showing you the size of the dimensions, I'm assuming, of this building right here. And then this is where Maggie was found in here. So I'm assuming that's what's going on with this picture. Is this is scaled up right here. So I'm assuming this is the storage room and the dog kennels. Let me know if I've got that wrong. I'm assuming that's what's going on here. RP3. But anyway, but Paul would be found inside, and then Maggie's found just outside. And then all of these yellow things that are, looks like most of these are outside. At least these ones here are the shells, I believe, or most of them are shells. I think one of them might be a track. And let's see, tire impressions is marker 8. You can see marker 8. And then we've got 110.9, which is shotgun shells here. Shotgun shell wad here. And bullet strike the grave, which is there. So yeah, so most of them are bullets. And I'm trying to find the tire impression. Oh, marker 8, tire impressions here. That is interesting. Okay. Huh. Brown area is the red roof. Right. Okay. All right, let's continue.
The main house, you can see the main house from the kennels. The family also had a house in Edisto at the beach. And the evidence is going to show that that is where Maggie preferred to stay, particularly in the summer months. She liked the beach. She was not a hunter. She didn't want to be at Moselle. She didn't want to be at the lodge where it was hot and buggy. She liked being in Edisto.
Real quick, well, at least Paul was shot in the front because he had a shot that kind of went through his upper arm, chest area, and actually I think kind of came out his side. And then the second shot was a headshot. So I think that, at the very least, the first shot to Paul was in the front. And I know one of the wounds, Maggie was shot in the back of the head. So maybe she was trying to run away, or maybe got shot once and then she spun around and then got shot again.
And then you're also, I've already mentioned, the house in Alameda, which is where his parents' home. On June 7th, 2021, you're going to hear evidence that his father went into the hospital and the prognosis was not good. And in fact, he died a few days later. And his mother was in late-stage Alzheimer's, and that house being cared for by a caretaker, and you're going to hear from that caretaker.
Mr. Waters. Yes, sir. Let me pause for a moment. We'll be at ease for just a moment.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. The main house has a driveway, but the kennels also have a driveway. And the evidence is going to show that that was actually as commonly used as the main driveway. In fact, the mailbox is by the kennel driveway.
So as you can see, yeah, you can see where this is all of the kind of the driveway they're talking about here.
Driving right past those kennels were Paul and Maggie were murdered. I told you that you're going to hear evidence that Maggie did not like being in Moselle as much as she liked Edisto, the beach house.
Okay, I'm gonna skip this forward a little bit.
8:15.
Okay, here we go.
And the evidence is going to show that she arrived about 8:15. And the evidence is going to show that from the cell phones that Paul was there at the house, at the main house. And Alec Murdaugh himself says that they ate dinner. And the autopsy is going to reflect both Paul and Maggie having similar stomach contents, indicating that they recently shared a meal together. About 8:30, about 15 minutes after they arrived, Paul's phone starts moving towards the kennels. You're going to hear evidence again that the defendant said he was never at those kennels, that he was napping after they ate, and he was at the main house and never went there. You're also going to hear evidence about how much Alec used his own cell phone, and it would be unusual for him to be anywhere without his cell phone. At 8:44 and 55 seconds, Paul recorded a video. He was down at the kennels because he had been talking to a friend of his, and you're going to hear from this friend because his friend's dog was in the kennels and they thought there was something wrong with the tail. And Paul was recording a video of it to send to his friend. 8:44 and 55 seconds.
Okay.
And on that video,
Okay.
and you'll see that video, and you'll hear from witnesses that identify Paul's voice, Maggie's voice, and Alec's voice. Told anyone who would listen he was never there. At 8:44 and 55 seconds, there's a video. The evidence will show that he was there. He was at the murder scene with the two victims. And more than that, just over 3 minutes later, 8:49.
Yeah, thank you, Carmen, for the help. We'll go back and figure that out because I thought it was the red roof. I could be wrong. Because when they said the driveway around it, so we'll look at that after. But this is what's very interesting: is his Alec's phone is apparently not active. So I don't know if he turned it off or what. But they say it's not it's not active. Is what they use, and that is between 8:09 and 9:02. And one of the last thing that Paul does is at 8:44 he records a video for a friend, which you're about to hear. And this is where we're coming up to the murders.
1 second. Paul's phone locks forever. He never reads another text. He never sends another text. He doesn't answer calls. 3 minutes after that video has the defendant.
So according to the prosecution, it sounds like they're saying that the murders could have taken place between 8:45 and 8:48. So a 3 minute window, 3 to 4 minute window, I guess you could say, when the murders would happen. And I mean, it doesn't seem very long, but if you've got, I mean, they're only feet away. One's inside, one. I mean, maybe they're kind of closer together, and I mean, who knows how exactly down, but obviously Paul shot first, and then maybe Maggie hears something and is either starting to run away or what, who knows. But she's close by, and then obviously gets shot with the AR. But it looks like they've got a 3 minute window, and the reason I say that is his phone locks up forever. So I wonder if, since Alex apparently, he even admits to, checking the pulse, he kind of tries to roll Paul over because he lands face first, and he apparently kind of tries to roll him over, and the phone pops out, which is something I want to talk about with you guys. I don't know, unless Paul had his phone in his hand, I could kind of see the phone popping out, or if it was just really just laying on the ground. But I don't see how a phone just pops out of a pocket. But that's just my opinion. So
At the murder scene with the two victims, Paul's flip phone goes silent forever. And in fact, another communication comes into the very friend that he was talking to the dog at 8:49 and 35 seconds, just 35 seconds later, and he doesn't answer it. He never answers another thing forever and ever. And on top of that, Maggie's phone locks at 8:49 and 31 seconds around that same time, and she never answers another text, never sends another text, never makes another phone call, never receives another phone call. 3 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 3 minutes after a video shows he's at the scene with the victims, and he told everybody he was never there. Never. Incredible.
Oh, so are you saying it's this one here? Carolina? Is that the building I'm missing? Because that makes sense. Because, yeah, that has a driveway. Because I'm like, it can't be this one. This doesn't have a driveway to it. That would make sense. Is that what you're saying is over here, Carolina? Kind of curious. So I could be wrong. Maybe it's not this one here. And it's this one here. A little bit smaller. But I'm sure it's a lot bigger than it looks.
Ladies and gentlemen. Drivability.
So here's a couple of pictures. Yeah, I guess it is not very big. Just some pictures. It doesn't really show much, but it shows it's pretty tight. Little area where they store some stuff. And one thing here, we can see some the kennels over here to the left in the top left picture. Looks kind of like four main little, well, not main, but like two parts to it, and it's got little sections into it. That's actually pretty tight now that you look at it. But it's just supposed to be a kennel, so I guess it wouldn't be too big. In tree line. Okay.
So what happens after that? Well, you'll hear evidence that Alex's phone was conspicuously, didn't have a lot of activity.
Okay.
From about 8:09 p.m. until 9:02 p.m. And if he was at the kennels, which the evidence will show, why is his phone not with him? Why is it not showing activity?
Yeah, so, oh, okay, I see. Oh, I see it right there. Gotcha. Okay, my bad. I totally see it now. Okay, yeah, you can't see it when it's flying over the one-way because all the trees cover it up. Okay, so it is this building next to the brown one. I see it now. We'll zoom it in. Actually, let me take a screenshot. Yeah, I was under the impression it was this building here, but I see the building you're talking about. Yeah, you really can't see it from that other angle at all. So, yeah, that looks like, because it's kind of like a little rectangular size shape. That's why I'm like, it can't be that one. This one looks way too big. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's this one and it's just got, kind of an outstretched awning on each side. But that makes sense right here. Yeah, and that's right to the driveway as well. So it's this one here. We'll look at it a little bit closer. Thank you, Carolina, for clearing that up. My apologies. Like I said, I thought it was this red one here, but totally see it now.
But you will hear that at 9:02, all of a sudden his phone does start to pick up activity. At 9:02, he calls, he starts moving. At 9:04, he calls Maggie's phone. Doesn't answer, of course. Doesn't answer.
What's up, Doug? Hope you're doing well, buddy.
He calls his father, Randolph, who's in the hospital. Doesn't appear there's an answer there. He calls Maggie again at 9:06. Remember, he's just a third of a mile away. You can see it. At 9:06, she doesn't answer. At 9:06, he turns on his car, his Suburban, and he texts Maggie that he's going, be right back. I'm going to go check on Mom. And he doesn't drive down to the kennels, even though that's where the mailbox is. That's a common place to be, even though you can see it. He's called his wife 2 times and texted her, and she hasn't responded. But he didn't just drive down there and say, hey, I'm heading. You guys want to go? What's up? What's up? Right there. You can see it. He then drives to Alameda, where his mom is suffering from Alzheimer's, and the caretaker is there. And he starts calling people. He's talking to people. It'll be up to you to decide whether or not he's trying to manufacture an alibi. He comes, he gets...
So there's Buster right there. Now, we've heard that he's apparently on the witness list and could take the stand. And I don't know... I mean, I would assume it would be for the defense, Maybe, I don't know. It'll be really weird for him. I mean, to see him go up on the stand, that will be really something to see. Because who knows what he's thinking? Like, is he kind of in the middle? I can't imagine what his thoughts are going. What he's thinking right now. Probably thinking, let's just say if he does suspect his father, he's probably thinking it's a good thing I wasn't there. I mean, who knows? I mean, then again, he, for those that have been following this case, after the murders happened, Alex did try to apparently hire a hitman so he could get killed, and then his son Buster, which this is Buster here with the red hair, collect I think it was like a $10 million life insurance. Now, if you don't know, not too familiar with the Alex Murdaugh cases, Alex Murdaugh's his law firm that he's had for many years, decades, whatever. He was ciphering money from it, stealing money from his law firm, and so I think that he's still waiting for charges on that too that are pending. So he had his whole thing is just collapsing around him. So let me quickly get these and we'll keep going. Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks for being the most down-to-earth creator on this planet. Thanks, Doug. That means a lot, buddy. That really means a lot. Go check out No Thanks Investigates. He does amazing work as well. That is so cool. And Tom and Very Wild Case, right up there with Lori Daybell. It is. I mean, and that's funny you mentioned that, because I was debating on whether to cover that case today, but I'm like, we're on the, tomorrow's going to start, day 4, day 5, I guess we'll just say week 2 of the trial. I think it's really going to start getting good. And they both got really amazing lawyers. The lawyer for Alex Murdaugh, Harpoon, I can remember his first name. I can't think of it. Harpulio? Is it Harpulio? Something like that. Amazing lawyer. He's the one that got Paul, the son, out of that hot water he had with the boat incident. So he's an amazing lawyer, which we see his little head right here. Amazing lawyer. So, and of course the prosecution, he's really good too. So it's been and this judge allows them to like cross and recross. If you're familiar with lawyer or court stuff, some judges don't allow like extra recrosses. You get one turn each, kind of a rebuttal, but it looks like this judge allows a couple of back and forths, which can really turn into a really good, battle between the attorneys. So I'm sorry to kind of get off track, but I just want to mention it's crazy if Buster does testify. That will be wild. And who's going to call him, prosecution or defense?
It's there to Alameda. You'll hear evidence about whether or not that was usual. You'll hear evidence about how he was acting when he got there.
Boot.
And he's only there for 20 minutes because he's back underway at 9:44. He makes more phone calls on the way back. Calling friends, calling people who will answer. It'll be up to you to decide whether he's trying to create an alibi. And he gets back to Moselle at 10:01. And he calls 911 at 10:06. Listen to that 911 call. Listen to what he says. Listen to what explanations he may offer. You're going to hear that 911 call, but you're also going to see the body-worn camera of the officers who arrived at the scene. The video camera they wear so that it records what they're doing. And you're going to see what he did to Maggie and Paul. It's going to be gruesome. There's no other way around it. It's what he did. You're going to see crime scene photographs. You're going to see the traumatic injuries that were suffered. And on the body-worn cameras. It happened that very day. Stuff that was leading up. A perfect storm that was gathering. Much like the storms that are coming outside today.
Okay, so that's pretty much it.
Seriously.
All right, so we'll recap everything. I just want to play this one little part where the defense attorney. I think this is so awkward when he has Alex stand up. I just want to play this, and then we'll go into some of the stuff that we just went over and dive a little bit deeper into it. So, but now,
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Dick Harpootlian.
brilliant,
I
brilliant.
introduce myself to you all and the attorneys, the three other attorneys, Jim Griffin, Philip Barber, Margaret Fox. It is our honor to represent Alec Murdaugh.
I said he's old school. He's kind of a bully. There's a channel called That Lawyer You Know. I think some of you guys follow him. Amazing guy. He's been breaking down this case. Very entertaining to watch him break down because he's a lawyer himself. And so he kind of explains all the little battles that have been going on this past week. Definitely, I'd check that channel out too. He's very entertaining. And he loves this lawyer just because that's his profession, and he loves this guy's style. This guy's no nonsense, old school. So anyway, I just want to play this part where he has Alex stand up. I think it's so awkward.
Or Murdaugh, depending on how you pronounce it. I say it's our honor because I submit to you what you have heard from the Attorney General as facts are not. They're his theories, his conjectures.
It's a reason, man.
Now stand up. This is Alec Murdaugh. And Alec was the loving father of Paul and the loving husband of Maggie. You're not going to hear a single witness say that their relationship, Maggie and Alex's relationship, were anything other than loving. You're going to hear about how they went to a baseball game the weekend before. You're going to hear about their relationship.
I think that's just awkward. I don't think I've ever seen a defense attorney after the accused, the defendant, stand up before. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but I don't know. It seemed awkward, and he didn't know when to sit down. He actually had to ask the co-defendant. He's like, or his co-counsel. He's like, "Do you think I should sit down?" Because he's just kind of standing there, just awkwardly. Doesn't have any kind of expression. Doesn't smile. Doesn't just. Kind of a blank expression. It just, I don't know. I thought it was really awkward. I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought if you saw that. I mean, you guys just saw it, but if you saw the whole thing, because I think I end the video.
Relationship. You're going to see texts and emails.
Yeah, I do. So anyway, that was basically the opening statement. If you missed it, like I said, I tried to put as much visuals in as I could. I apologize for getting the wrong. The kennel's wrong. I apologize. So thank you so much, Karma. So yeah, I can kind of see it in the tree line here. So the kennels is actually below this red building here. It's just right in this tree line. So my apologies, because when you look at some of the things from here, we'll pull up my. Let's see, where was the one that I wanted to show? Oh, there it was. Because, yeah, where they have it here, so as you can see where they've got it clipped here, I'm like, I know it's not that building, so maybe it's got to be this building, but I had no idea that because you can't see it from this overhead view, but the kennels are actually just a rectangular building that's just kind of parallel to the, or just, I don't know, south or whatever, from the red building there, so just want to clear that up. My apologies for getting that wrong, and thank you so much, Karma, for fixing that. Okay, so let's get into some of the arguments here. And the biggest thing is, let's see where we got it right here. Is so Paul would have most likely, it sounds like Paul was laying face first on the floor. And this is just a guy laying, this is no graphic thing. This is just a guy laying down on the floor face first. And now, according to Alec, he goes to check their pulse. And we have Paul and Maggie. But when he goes to check on Paul, he apparently, as he's kind of rolling him over, he says the phone pops out. And I would think, now keep in mind, so let me go one more diagram. And this is obviously not real blood. This is just some paint. But I would think with a wound, so you got like an upper wound, chest. So you got two wounds. You got one in upper chest and shoulder area. So I would think there'd be a fairly amount of decent pool of blood around his arm already. And then, of course, the headshot was very catastrophic. I'm not going into too much detail, but clearly took off his head. I would imagine there would have been a pool of blood. I mean, they describe it, investigators describe a pool of blood pretty much surrounding him. They would even go on to describe that there is a lot of water, as if someone was trying to clean up. And so they weren't sure if, someone was cleaning up in the kennels before, or was this after the incident and someone was spraying down water. But if the phone was under Paul, under Paul, how in the hell is that phone not covered in blood? Or more importantly, how is Alex not covered in blood? Let me know your thoughts. I wonder if maybe Alex grabbed Paul's phone before it happened. I kind of wonder what the condition of the phone is in. Like, if did it have any kind of like cracks on the screen or anything? Because I mean, if he had it out, I would think that might cause. I mean, I don't know. You got cases that are pretty tough, so I guess we don't know what kind of case he had on his phone. I guess that would kind of come into play, but I just don't see how a phone, if it's in his pocket, how it's gonna magically popped out. I think he definitely, if it was in the pocket, maybe it was in his back pocket, and maybe that's why the phone itself wasn't covered in blood. He actually just kind of used that, saying he was checking the pulse, rolled them, and it popped out. But he really just grabbed it. And of course, there's that video that Paul recorded. And if we just look at this timeline real quick, and then we'll come back to this. Let me get my timeline out here. So here's just kind of a little bit of timeline just coming up before the murders. And so basically, if you missed the first part, Alex's phone is apparently shut off, or it's not active between 8:09 p.m. and 9:02. It won't come on until 9:02. During that time, Paul makes two videos. One before 8:44, I forget the time, but the one that's most important is he makes another Snapchat video while he's at the kennel at 8:44, almost at 8:45, because it's like 8:44 and 50 some seconds. So basically, approximately 8:45, Paul records a video for his friend on Snapchat. Now, if you're not familiar with Snapchat, once the video is done recording, it sends. So I wonder, if Alex knows that, and was he trying to delete that? But anyway, what's going to be used against him, if it's true, is apparently there is Alex and Maggie's voice heard in that video. And of course, at that time, getting the names mixed up, Alex is supposed to be, I guess, I don't know if he's supposed to be at this time. I'm not sure if he's basically saying he was in the home napping at that time, or he wasn't home at that time. I'm still not understanding that. Like, because he goes to tell everybody after the murders, say, hey, hush, I wasn't at the home, or whatever at this time. But apparently, he was napping too. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of going to break down that timeline even more. So anyway, so there's that video. Then at 8:45 to 8:48, according to the prosecution, don't know if this is exactly accurate, but according to their timeline, is when the murders most likely happened. Because then at 8:49, Paul's phone locks up forever and won't be used again. So, and I'm assuming possibly if Alex is guilty, did he, was he trying to delete some things on that phone? So, let me see the chat. Oh, we got quite a few people in here for a Sunday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you missed the first part, we kind of played the opening statements. And if you missed that, definitely check that out. Okay, so he claims he was never at the kennels. Okay, yeah. It's kind of confusing because he's like telling people he was never there, but it's like, okay, never where? Like at the property at a certain time, or, so. But I mean, if you're napping, it's only a quarter of a mile away, even if you're napping, how do you not hear the gunshots, you know? And what I don't have today, but since this is turning out to be a decent sized show, we'll dive deeper tomorrow. But I want to break down Paul's vehicle, because this would actually be kind of more on the defense side. Paul's vehicle, his son, Alex's son, is actually going to be found broken down. I'm not sure how many miles away, but it's broken down. And that could be an argument that maybe the if this wasn't Alex and it was, you know, one or two other people that did this, it was a hit or whatever. Could it be that they took his truck, or one of them took his truck and then, you know, dumped it off and it broke down on the highway 62, I think it was. So, kind of curious. But going back over to this. So, a little bit more about the no blood thing. This is another thing that can be used for both sides. Is I wonder. So Alex, during the 911 call, you know, after he describes what he found, he says, you know, he's not sure if, you know, if there's people still here. He's afraid, so he says he's going to go to the house and get a shotgun. So was this premeditated? Was this like a premeditated action for an alibi for the excuse to have gunshot residue, which would be found on the seatbelt that we talked about and the tarp? I was speaking with Steve and I was asking, I'm like, since obviously they were shooting, they're hunters, they're always shooting their weapons. And I'm not a gun person, so I don't know anything about guns, but apparently you can get gun residue off a gun. Even if it's been fired a day or two ago, it still leaves that gun residue. And I'm assuming maybe shotguns are pretty, just with the buckshot, I don't know if it leaves more gunshot residue than an AR. I don't know if there's any experts that know, you know, if one type of gun leaves more residue or not. But anyway, so that makes you wonder, did he do that on purpose, especially during the 911 call? Did he want to go and make sure he tells the operator, hey, I'm grabbing the shotgun. I feel afraid. I want to make sure nobody's out here. And then on accident, he puts, because I guess it's a 12 gauge shotgun, he puts one 12 gauge shotgun shell in. Then the next shell he puts in is a 16 gauge. And for those that aren't like me, that know a lot about shotguns, the higher the number, it goes smaller. So 12 gauge is bigger than a 16 gauge. 16 is bigger than an 18 gauge, if that makes sense. So the lower the number, the bigger they are, according to Steve. He knows much more about this than I do. But you don't want to put, you know, a 16 gauge bullet into a 12 gauge. It could have bad side effects. It could blow back. But anyway, I think, Mist agrees. I think alibi for GSR. Yeah, totally. That's what I was thinking. Because like I said, I didn't know about I thought gunshot residue just when the gun was fired, but I mean, I guess it would make sense that you would, even if it was used a couple days ago, it could possibly have gunshot residue. And so he, you know, saying if he's guilty, he knew that, so he needed to create that alibi, saying, okay, I need to get this on record that I'm grabbing the shotgun. Because I think if he didn't say that on that 911 call, and then they show up and he's got a shotgun in his hand, I think that's just going to look 10 times worse, in my opinion. When the bullets match his gun. Yes, so this is the problem, Lacey. Ann is apparently, so as far as Maggie, the 300 blackout, yes, because bullets, especially for ARs and guns, you know, and shotguns, because the extractor, you know, you can trace the bullet back to the gun because it leaves the grooves. But apparently, you know, there's two ARs that are missing now, because they did get a new one, but that one's still missing. So they only have one AR, I think. And so, like I said, I think if he is guilty, that blue tarp or raincoat that he took over to his parents most likely had those guns in it, and that's why we don't see him. Because the shotgun, And the shotgun that he grabbed at the home apparently is not the same shotgun that was used on Paul. Especially an AR, those guns are very, very loud. Yeah, so if he's napping in his home, I mean, only a under 3/4 of a mile away. I mean, we can see it from here to here. We're looking at, so if you think it like a football field, it's a little bit bigger and wider than a football field, not by much. I think it's 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards, something like that, approximately. So, I mean, it's not far. Thank you so much, Tom. Let me see what else. Davey says, you would definitely hear the shotgun. A 300 blackout is made to be suppressed. Oh, that's a good... Right. It could be made really quiet with a can on it. So like silencer type thing. Not sure if it had one or not. True. But yeah, he could have had a silencer on it. I mean, clearly, I'm assuming if they have the funds for it. Very British. Depends on the type. Slug, Nick shot, bird shot. Yeah, I don't know anything about guns, so that's... the GSR would be all over the place, yeah. Was there a mention or rumor that he had the gun wrapped in something when he shot them? I have not heard that. I don't know. Okay, let's continue a little bit more. 4 gauge is the biggest gauge shotgun. Yeah, so yeah, apparently the lower the number, the bigger the gauge. Interesting. So yeah, I don't think there's... I mean, I've seen silencers for shotguns, but I'm sure someone would have heard it. But so here is apparently, all the gunshot residue that they are going to introduce in... I'm assuming if they mentioned in opening statements, they're going to bring it into evidence. They did bring the seatbelt into evidence. And if you're wondering, because I was kind of wondering, like, what was the seatbelt about? Did it have maybe some blood on it? But apparently it has gunshot residue. So, and that would be from transferring from his hand to the seatbelt. And so that's why they took the seatbelt. And this just kind of shows kind of what it's like. This is slow motion of a gun being fired. And a lot of this is kind of part of the gunshot residue. And usually you would typically get it on your hands. And if you're close to the victim, even the victim may have some gunshot residue on them. Let's see. Okay, so we'll play this. We'll go for another 20. Let's see. We start at 4. We'll go for another 20 minutes. I got a couple more arguments. And then we'll see what you guys think here.
Commissioner Nodine when he was questioned Sunday night.
Newcomb said the test isn't done in Alabama because it's unreliable. But
so Steve said this too. The problem with GSR, gunshot residue, is it is kind of unreliable science. And so we'll play the reason why.
Forensic scientists beg to differ.
Fox 10 News reporter John Rogers joining us live in the studio with more on that. John?
Bob Linnies has spent the day at the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. An official there says the test can be reliable in determining if someone fired a weapon. He says after a gun is fired, microscopic particles escape from the gun and stick to the shooter's hand. The official says the main problem with the test is that the particles can easily fall off.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty obvious when someone shoots a gun. But in some crime scenes, figuring out who fired a gun is not always obvious. Forensic scientists have tools to help, like a gunshot residue test. Forensic scientists say after a gun is fired, the residue spreads to the shooter's hand. It's called primer residue. It's made up of microscopic chemical particles.
The primer residues that would be deposited on the hands can be used for an investigative lead. So if somebody has those primer residues on their hands, they may have some questions to answer. It tells you 4 things. Basically, one would be if a shooter fired a gun or if they were in the general vicinity of a gun being fired, or if they picked up a gun that had recently been fired.
Right
and
there.
The last is it could be contamination from, say, if they had gotten in the back of a police car or something like that.
So even just contamination of getting back of a police car. So you can see where the defense, Harpoolian, is going to go with that. One, he handled the shotgun in the house that they probably went shooting the day before or 2 days before, whatever. So, and then he was just inside of a cop car after that taking statements. So I'm sure Harpoolian, I mean, this guy is no dummy. Even if you hate him, the lawyer is definitely, I mean, he got his son Paul off on a slap on the wrist for compared to what he really should have received for that boating accident and DUI case, which got, that poor girl Mallory Beach killed. And anyway, I can just see, he's definitely, this is why it's kind of like a 50-50 when it comes to gunshot residue.
McSpadden says investigators conduct the test by taking a swab of the person's hand and placing it under a special microscope. He says the residue wears off in 3 hours. Baldwin County District Attorney Judy Newcomb says the tests are not performed in Alabama because they're unreliable.
But the test that y'all keep asking about is not what's being done. But I can assure you there are lots of things that are being done, and that's what we want to concentrate on.
The test itself is not unreliable.
But McSpadden says there are some key problems with it. The residue can quickly wear off after washing your hands or by just walking around. So even if a person fired a weapon, the test could come out negative.
If you get a negative test back, then it can be conceived that the person didn't fire a gun, but it doesn't answer that question, and we want to definitively answer the question.
Sometimes a gunshot residue test can be reliable, but other times it's seen as a shot in the dark.
A law enforcement official says in cases like these...
So there's just kind of a both sides to the argument with gunshot residue, but... So anyway, so I can definitely see Harpoolian, when they bring that up, he's definitely going to try to go to town on, trying to explain away that gunshot residue. But it'll be interesting to watch. Like I said, I love trials. This one, I'll be honest, I think I've told you guys, if you haven't heard my opinion on this, I'm like 60-40. I think it's more than likely Alex did this, but either way, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, just because if you know the history, the family history, and of course with Paul, and I'll just kind of pull it up here. So, and as you can see, there's Harpoolian representing Paul back in what was this lawsuit? 2019, I think, or something like that. And anyway, with the charges he had, he basically got a slap on the wrist. And it got this poor girl killed because they were in a boating accident and he was under the influence and crashed into a pillar from a bridge, and she went flying off the boat, probably hit her head on the way out of the boat, knocked her out, and unfortunately drowned. And luckily they recovered her body, I think weeks later or something like that. And then the family of Mallory Beach did also put a $50 million claim against the estates of Maggie and Paul. And that's just from that incident. Then you have the Stephen Smith incident that they're still looking into, which they think Paul and or Buster was involved in some degree to his, death. And so there's just a lot. And then, of course, on top of that, you've got Alex Murdaugh, who was stealing money from his firm, and the thing with the Glorious Satterfield, I think her last name is, and how, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. So what was the other thing I wanted to touch on? So here is a look at where the bodies were at. I put a diagram. So she's sitting out just outside here, and looks like Paul is just inside the shed here. We went over this, but yeah, so she was shot, I think 3 to 4 times, I believe, with the, because I saw somebody ask this. She was shot multiple times. Paul was shot twice. I think she was shot up to like 4 times. The last one, I believe, was shot in the back of the head, which is just terrible. It kind of makes sense. It's an AR, automatic rifle. It's going to probably pop out a couple bullets, I'm assuming. I don't know, unless it's a semi-auto. I don't know. I'm not a gun expert. Yes. Oh, where you at, JDR? The housekeeper also died. Yeah, and then that whole debacle of that it's just. I mean, these guys are a mess. Let's see. There's one more thing I want to show. What was it? Oh, because I didn't get to zoom in. So here's just a couple of the shots of inside. I mean, there's a few little blood spatters here, but there's nothing else graphic with the photos here if you haven't seen them. As you can see, it looks pretty tight quarters here. Here's kind of the kennels area. I'm assuming this is where Paul was found. Actually, it's got the 1 here. As a matter of fact, we can tell right away. Where was number 1 at? So as we can see, number 1, the evidence number. So that's sitting right here. We can see where they say his body's kind of like halfway in the door, I guess, here. And so we pull this back up. So it looks like he could have been laying this way where the head is out the door. Or it could be vice versa. I'm not sure exactly. But so that's that picture. And okay, we can kind of see that same number. That looks like number 1. Standing next. Yeah. So this screenshot here. So his body would have been more in this room here that the photographer, I guess, is standing. And he would have been, if you just literally just pan down, I'm assuming that's where he was at, laying kind of face down. And then it looks like there's some, I'm assuming they've got pictures of some like buckshots. I can't really see them. The photos are kind of not that great, but this is just outside the room. I'm assuming they're taking some pictures to see, because apparently the shot was maybe angled up a little bit. So I'm assuming there's maybe pellets and stuff. That's what we're kind of seeing. It does look like pellet holes now that I'm looking at it. It's really grainy. My apologies. It's not the best photo, but I'm assuming that's what that is. I could be wrong though. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Hey, Catherine, good to see you. Yeah, they have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got Mallory Beach's family that's filed charges. You've got Phoebe. Excuse me. You got the housekeeper and then Mallory Beach. So yeah, you have the families, and then of course, we don't know how much the jury will know about Alex Murdaugh's financial situation, because that builds motive as well for the prosecution, with all the stuff that was going on with him and his firm. So yeah, a lot going on that doesn't look good for him. And so yeah, let's see what time it is. Okay, so I think we'll probably end it there. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. And I wasn't sure. I didn't think we'd even get past 200 or 300 viewers. So thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch the show. So quick few updates before we go, though. I'm thinking about doing a couple videos on the Daybell case, Lori and Chad Daybell, because there's some interesting things that I've noticed that no one's really covered in depth, and that is kind of like the deaths of the children and the death of Chad's wife. And so I kind of wanted to maybe do a video on that. And so I may do kind of just a breakdown of the case itself for those that haven't heard of that case. I think most of you have, but for those, I may try to do kind of just a crash course on that case as well. But I think this next coming week with the trial, I mean, obviously it's going to start up again tomorrow. I think it's going to get, it's just going to get better. And like I said, with I do like watching these cases as kind of like trying to be acting like a juror and not have a side on one way or the other, and see where these lawyers, how they present the case, and just try to think of it as like a juror, because it is right now. I think the prosecution still got a lot to go. I mean, so let's do the Daybell case. Yeah, there's some things I would really like to touch on that I haven't really seen a lot. I mean, I'm sure it has somewhere, but it seems that they never really talk about much about. I mean, I hate to do it, but talk about like who may have killed. I mean, we probably think it's Alex, the hitman of the family, not Alex Murdaugh, Lori's brother, Alec. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. But yeah, I would love to. So yeah, I think we might do that. But then we'll keep an eye on Murdaugh and then of course Brian Kohlberger. But we'll try some things. But also coming up, not soon, but in the near future, of course, if you haven't heard, me and Steve from True Crime Web, we're going to be going out and working some cold cases. Of course, we'll be filming, and we've got geophysicists. We've got our hands on some cadaver dogs, and we're going to try to help some people with some cold cases. And so this channel will start to kind of evolve into kind of like a cold case, helping people with their cold cases. So really excited for that. And I'll still do kind of updates on cases, just depends on the workload. But we do want to evolve the channel into that, to where it's our own unique thing. And you guys get to come on the journey with us. And so we're really excited. So I just want to say I couldn't do what I'm doing without your guys' support. So thank you guys so much for just being here. Thank you so much for everyone that donated, and to all my members. I'll try to get some more member stuff out real soon. And then we'll have a mod appreciation. We'll try it again maybe in a week or so. Last time we were going to do it, Jennifer got hurt. So with that said, I think we'll play the outro. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. And hope you guys have a great start of the next week. And we'll be live tomorrow. So thank you, Tom. Go Eagles. I don't know what's going on with the football game, so I'll have to go check that. I'm going to go ahead and play the outro. Love you guys.